The days that followed were tense and uncertain. News of the attack and the rumors surrounding Princess Lyria's connection with Jason had begun to circulate among certain council members. Some whispered doubts, questioning her judgment, while others openly criticized her. Yet, despite the political pressure, Lyria remained resolute. She had felt the pull of the soulmate indicator, she had seen Jason's courage, she had witnessed his loyalty and honor. Those truths were undeniable, and she knew that no amount of gossip or tradition could change them. Jason, aware of the scrutiny, but determined to protect the princess, continued to perform his duties with precision and calm. He moved through the halls of the flagship with quiet confidence, assisting with security protocols, coordinating repairs, and ensuring that the human delegation remained safe. He did not seek recognition or praise. For him, the priority was the safety of those around him and now, increasingly, the safety and well-being of Lyria herself. The princess found herself seeking his counsel more frequently. She valued his insight, but she also valued his presence. Even in moments of solitude, she could feel the bond between them. It was subtle, a pulse in her chest and mind that reminded her of the connection neither of them could deny. And when their hands brushed, or their eyes met, the indicator flared softly, reaffirming the truth that had changed her life. One afternoon, a formal council meeting was called to discuss the recent events and the next steps for the Empire. Lyria entered the chamber with calm composure, though her heart raced beneath her royal attire. Jason accompanied her, standing respectfully behind her. The council members were already seated, their expressions a mixture of concern, curiosity, and quiet judgment. Princess Lyria, the eldest advisor, began. The events of the past weeks have raised questions. It is unusual for a human to be involved so closely in matters of our empire. Many believe this connection is improper and could compromise the throne. Lyria held her head high, her voice steady as she addressed the room. The human in question has proven himself not only capable, but loyal and honorable. Captain Jason Cole acted in defense of this empire and its people. His actions saved lives, and his judgment has been impeccable. I will not dismiss these truths because they challenge tradition. Murmurs rippled through the council. Some were supportive, others skeptical, yet none could deny the certainty in her voice. She continued, "There is more. The soulmate indicator, a device designed to reveal a bond that lasts a lifetime, has activated in my presence when Captain Cole touched me. This is unprecedented, but it is real. It cannot be ignored, and it cannot be denied." A tense silence filled the chamber. Council members exchanged uneasy glances, some struggling to reconcile centuries of tradition with the undeniable evidence before them. Lyria's gaze swept over the room, landing on Jason. His calm presence, his steady eyes, reinforced her resolve. She took a deep breath. "I recognize the challenges this presents. I understand that some may oppose it. But this bond is genuine, and it is not something I can turn away from." A younger advisor, hesitant but honest, spoke next. "Princess, while the implications are significant, perhaps this connection should be considered as part of a greater understanding. If it has been revealed by the indicator, perhaps it is a sign that our perspective must change." Lyria nodded, appreciating the courage in those words. "Exactly. It is time for our people to embrace what is true, not merely what is convenient. Captain Cole's presence here is not a threat. It is an opportunity. And together, we will face the future with courage and unity." After the meeting, Lyria and Jason walked through the corridors, a sense of quiet relief settling between them. The council had not fully accepted the bond, but the fact that they had been heard and acknowledged was significant. For the first time, Lyria felt a sense of hope that their connection could withstand not only political scrutiny, but the weight of tradition itself. That evening, in the private gardens, Lyria and Jason stood together under the soft glow of the artificial lights. The hum of the energy fields around them created a peaceful atmosphere, stark contrast to the tension of the council chamber. "Captain," Lyria began softly, "I am aware of the challenges ahead. My people may not all understand, and there will be those who resist this connection. But I cannot ignore what the indicator has shown me, nor the truth I feel when I am near you." Jason stepped closer, his voice calm but firm. Princess, I do not fully understand the science or the traditions, but I know that the bond between us is real. I will stand by you regardless of the obstacles. Together, we can face whatever comes. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the unspoken understanding between them deepened. Lyria reached out, and Jason's hand met hers. The soulmate indicator glowed brightly for the first time in their presence, confirming the bond for both of them in a vivid display. Lyria's chest tightened with emotion, her heart pounding in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. I trust you, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly, and I believe that together we can face anything. Jason nodded, his expression steady, though his own heart beat faster. I feel the same, Princess. You have my loyalty, my protection, and my honesty. Always. The following days were filled with preparation for a formal announcement. Lyria knew that the Empire would need time to accept the unprecedented bond, but she was determined to face it openly. Jason assisted her with every step, offering support, strategy, and quiet reassurance. Together, they navigated the complex web of tradition, politics, and public perception. On the day of the announcement, the Grand Hall was filled with council members, ambassadors, and representatives from across the Empire. Lyria stood at the podium, her posture regal, her voice steady. Jason stood beside her, calm and supportive. She began today. I speak not only as your princess, but as someone who has discovered a bond that transcends species, tradition, and expectation. Captain Jason Cole is not merely a guest in our empire. He is my soulmate, chosen by the Indicator and confirmed by our shared experiences. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the hall. Some council members exchanged shocked glances, while others leaned forward, curious and attentive. Lyria continued, I recognize that this revelation is unprecedented. I understand that many may struggle to accept it, but I will not turn away from the truth. Captain Cole's presence, his courage, and his character are undeniable, and our bond is real. Jason stepped forward slightly, his voice calm and deliberate. I accept this responsibility, Princess. I will honor the trust placed in me, and I will protect this empire and its people, as well as the bond we share. It is my duty and my privilege. The hall fell silent, the weight of their words settling over the assembly. Slowly, one by one, the council members began to nod, acknowledging the sincerity and courage displayed. While acceptance would take time, the foundation had been laid. Lyria's resolve and Jason's integrity had created a moment that could not be ignored in the days that followed. Lyria and Jason continued their work together. Security was strengthened, diplomatic relations were reinforced, and the bond between them grew stronger. They trained together, strategized together, and shared quiet moments of reflection. Each interaction, each touch, each glance reinforced the connection that the Indicator had revealed. The final challenge came when a rival faction attempted a last desperate attack to undermine the announcement. Lyria and Jason worked side by side, coordinating defenses and inspiring the guards with courage and precision. The assault was fierce, but the combined strength of human and alien forces, guided by their leadership, repelled the enemy. After the battle, Lyria stood with Jason, overlooking the city from the observation deck. The lights shimmered below, reflecting a world that had been tested and found resilient. She turned to him, her eyes bright with emotion. We have faced danger, opposition, and doubt, she said softly. And yet, here we are, stronger together. Jason reached for her hand, the Indicator glowing softly between them. Together, he echoed. Always. In that moment, the princess and the human captain knew that the bond revealed by the soulmate Indicator was not just a symbol, it was real, unbreakable, and extraordinary. Their connection had defied expectation, challenged tradition, and proven that courage, honor, and truth could bridge even the widest gaps between worlds. And as the stars twinkled above, Lyria and Jason stood together, ready to face the future not as princess and guard, not as alien and human, but as soulmates, united by a bond that had chosen them against all odds. The empire around them was changing, but their hearts had already found certainty, and in that certainty, They discovered the true power of unity, courage, and love that transcended species and expectation, the soulmate indicator. Now, quiet but ever-present, pulsed gently in acknowledgement of the journey they had taken. It had revealed a bond that was extraordinary, a connection that was unprecedented, and a future that was shared. Lyria and Jason, standing side by side, knew that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together, and nothing could ever break the bond that had chosen them. The next morning, Princess Lyria woke with a restless mind. The memory of the soulmate indicator flashing on Jason's touch haunted her every thought. She had tried to focus on her duties, reviewing ceremonial protocols and the schedules of the visiting human delegation. But her mind kept returning to that single moment. She had been trained all her life to control her emotions, to maintain the dignity of her royal position, yet she found herself curious in a way that she had never allowed before. In the grand hall, her advisors had already begun preparations for the day's meetings. Lyria moved gracefully among them, offering brief nods and polite smiles. Her attention, however, remained divided. Every time she glanced toward the area where the humans were staying, she saw Jason. He moved with quiet efficiency, coordinating his team while observing the alien surroundings with calm curiosity. There was something unusual about him, not just his human nature, but the way he carried himself. He was confident yet respectful, strong yet unassuming, as Lyria approached her personal council. She overheard her advisors discussing the delegation's progress. "Captain Cole is proving competent," one said. "He is not just skilled in combat, but in diplomacy as well. A human who commands respect without arrogance is rare indeed." Lyria paused, her pulse quickening. She had not realized she had been listening so closely. "Yes," she said softly, masking the unease in her voice. "It is important to observe those who come to our world. Their actions reveal more than words ever could." The day's events continued with formal meetings. Lyria had to greet each member of the human delegation personally, reviewing gifts and shared customs. Every encounter with Jason was brief but charged with an unspoken tension. Whenever their hands brushed, even slightly, the memory of the indicator flashing burned in her mind. She could not explain it scientifically, or could she ignore the inexplicable pull she felt toward him. During a mid-morning inspection of the ceremonial hall, Lyria found herself walking alongside Jason as he assessed security measures. He spoke politely, asking questions about protocols and demonstrating a keen understanding of the procedures. Lyria found herself impressed. His voice was calm, his words precise, and he seemed genuinely interested in learning her world rather than judging it. "Your people value order and precision," Jason said, glancing at the intricate carvings on the walls. "It's impressive how much thought goes into even the smallest details." Lyria nodded, feeling a faint smile tug at her lips. "We strive for perfection, Captain. It is expected of those in leadership." Her words carried a hint of pride, but she noticed the curiosity in Jason's eyes. He did not appear intimidated, only intrigued as they continued walking. They came upon a delicate ceremonial artifact, a crystalline orb that floated above a pedestal, pulsing with faint energy. Lyria's hand reached out reflexively, and Jason stepped slightly closer to assist if needed. Their fingers brushed once again, lightly, accidentally. The soulmate indicator flickered softly, dimmer than the previous day, but still unmistakable. Lyria froze, her chest tightening with surprise and confusion. Jason noticed her sudden pause. "Are you all right, Princess?" he asked, his voice calm but edged with concern. He did not know the full significance of the indicator, yet he sensed her hesitation. "Yes," Lyria said, forcing a controlled tone. "I am simply careful around delicate items." Her voice trembled slightly, though she masked it well. She wanted to pull away, to run from the confusing pull she felt, but some part of her could not. She wanted to observe him, to understand the strange connection the indicator had revealed. Over the next several days, Lyria found it increasingly difficult to avoid Jason. Protocol dictated distance. Yet fate, or perhaps the indicator, kept placing them together. During training sessions, she noticed his attention to detail, his steady hands when performing complex tasks, and the way he maintained his composure under scrutiny. Lyria's curiosity grew, mixed with a rising admiration she did not fully understand. Meanwhile, Jason observed her as well. He noticed the careful way she moved through the hall, the grace with which she conducted herself, and the subtle expressions that betrayed her emotions despite her attempts at composure. Though humans and aliens rarely formed deep bonds, he felt a strange familiarity around her. Her presence was comforting yet electrifying, stirring feelings he did not recognize but could not ignore. One afternoon, during a strategy discussion with the council, Lyria found herself distracted again. Jason stood near the holographic display, analyzing potential security threats for an upcoming diplomatic mission. He moved confidently, pointing out vulnerabilities and offering practical solutions. Lyria's pulse quickened. Every time he spoke, every time he moved, she felt the indicator's pull as a subtle hum in her mind. After the meeting, she retreated to her chambers, determined to understand the strange bond she felt. She summoned a trusted scientist, Dr. Velen, who had studied the soulmate indicator for decades. Dr. Velen, Lyria began, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I need to know the truth. Is it possible for a human to trigger the indicator? The scientist looked at her carefully, considering his words. Princess, theoretically, the indicator should never activate for someone outside your species. It is calibrated specifically to detect a soulmate bond, a combination of biological and psychological compatibility. No human has ever come close. Lyria's heart pounded, and yet it did. When I touched him, the indicator lit up, bright, undeniable, and continuous. She held out her wrist, though the indicator was inactive now. Explain this. Dr. Velen hesitated, then said cautiously, If what you describe is accurate, Princess, then the bond is genuine. The human you touched may, against all expectations, be your soulmate. The words struck Lyria like a thunderclap. Her mind raced. A soulmate bond meant a lifetime connection, a union of trust, loyalty, and mutual protection. It defied cultural norms, defied centuries of expectation, and yet she could not deny the evidence. Her pulse quickened at the thought. She spent the rest of the day in contemplation. Could she accept a human as her soulmate? Could she trust someone from a species her people had long considered inferior, fragile, or unpredictable? Lyria knew the political implications were enormous. Allies and rivals alike would question her judgment. Her advisors might oppose her openly. And yet the pull she felt toward Jason was undeniable. And the indicator had confirmed it. Days passed, and the human delegation continued their visit. Lyria observed Jason at every opportunity. She noted his quiet humor, his patience with misunderstandings, and his ability to remain calm under pressure. Unlike other humans, she had studied in records or met briefly. He seemed genuine, kind, and strong in ways she had not expected. During one inspection, Jason noticed a minor flaw in the security layout. He pointed it out calmly to Lyria, explaining how it could be addressed without drawing attention or causing alarm. Lyria found herself impressed, not only by his insight, but by the way he presented it. He did not seek praise. He sought only solutions. She realized then that her feelings were not mere curiosity. She admired him deeply for qualities she had never seen in anyone else. And the indicator had already chosen him, silently marking the connection that she had been too cautious to acknowledge fully. Despite this growing bond, Lyria maintained her composure in public. To her advisors and council, she was the perfect princess, composed and dutiful. Yet in private moments, she allowed herself small gestures of attention, observing him when he did not notice, remembering the small details of his behavior, and feeling an inexplicable warmth whenever he was near. One evening, the delegation gathered for a formal dinner. Lyria sat at the head of the table, flanked by her closest advisors. Jason took his place a few seats away, observing the customs carefully, but with quiet ease. During the meal, a minor incident occurred. A delicate serving tray began to tip dangerously. Without thinking, Lyria reached to stabilize it, but Jason's hand was already there, steady and precise. Their fingers brushed lightly again. The indicator in Lyria's mind throbbed, a silent reminder of the impossible connection. She froze, cheeks warm, heart racing. Jason noticed her pause. "Are you all right, Princess?" he asked softly, concern evident in his tone. She nodded, hiding the rapid beat of her heart. She could not reveal the truth not until she understood what this bond meant, and how it would affect everything she knew about her life and her empire. After the dinner concluded, Lyria withdrew to her chambers once more. She reflected on the day, on Jason's actions, on the indicator, and on the strange mix of fear and excitement that had become a constant presence. She realized that her life was changing, whether she accepted it or not. The human captain was more than a visitor. He was a force that challenged her assumptions, her training, and the rules that had governed her life for decades. She resolved to observe him closely, to learn more about him, and to understand the connection the soulmate indicator had revealed. She would maintain her duties, protect the traditions of her people, and hide the secret bond growing in her heart. But she could not deny the truth. A human had touched her hand, and the indicator had lit up. And with it, her carefully controlled world had shifted in a way she had never imagined possible. The following days brought a mixture of tension and anticipation. Princess Lyria could feel the pull of the soulmate indicator in her mind even when Jason was not near. A quiet hum that reminded her she could not ignore the connection. She carried herself with composure before her advisors. Yet inside, she felt a growing storm of emotion she could neither name nor control. Every moment with Jason was both exhilarating and terrifying. The human was everything her world had not prepared her for. Calm under pressure, kind yet strong, and unaware of the extraordinary effect he had on her life. Jason, for his part, remained focused on his duties, though he could not deny the subtle fascination he felt toward the princess. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, regal yet approachable, cautious yet curious. Humans rarely bonded with alien species, and Jason had long believed that interactions would remain formal, limited to diplomacy and observation. But there was something different about Lyria warmth that went beyond protocol, a sharp intelligence that drew him in, and a presence that made him feel both alert and strangely at peace. The peace of their routine was shattered. One morning, when alarms echoed through the flagship, a rival faction, long opposed to Lyria's family, had launched a surprise attack on the outer docking bays. Explosions rocked the city below, and the flagship's shields flared as emergency protocols activated. Lyria's heart pounded, fear gripping her chest, yet she forced herself to remain composed. Her advisors rushed to her side, giving rapid instructions and briefing her on the situation. The human delegation was under threat, and Jason was immediately on alert. Without hesitation, Jason moved toward the emergency control area. Lyria followed, her royal instincts pushing her to remain close to the humans in danger. Their eyes met briefly as they navigated the chaos. And in that fleeting glance, Lyria felt the indicator pulse strongly again, as if urging her to act. She did not fully understand what it meant, but she knew she could not ignore it. The enemy forces breached the outer defenses, and the flagship's security teams engaged in rapid combat. Lyria observed the human guards in action, noting their skill, precision, and ability to adapt to an alien environment. Jason moved fluidly, anticipating threats and neutralizing them with calculated efficiency. The princess felt a mixture of awe and fear. In all her years, she had never seen anyone respond so quickly, so decisively. Under such pressure, amid the chaos, an explosive charge threatened the main docking area. Lyria instinctively stepped forward to warn Jason, but a blast sent debris flying. Without hesitation, he lunged, shielding her with his body. Their hands touched briefly as he stabilized her, and the soulmate indicator flared with brilliant intensity, lighting the room with an undeniable glow. Lyria froze, unable to move, her chest tight with a mixture of fear, shock, and something more she could not name. Jason's eyes met hers, filled with concern and calm determination. "Stay behind me," he commanded, voice steady despite the roar of destruction around them. The clarity of his command, the certainty of his action, made Lyria's heart pound in ways she had never experienced. The indicator pulsed again, as if affirming the bond that neither of them had yet spoken aloud. The battle continued, with alien troops and human guards working together to repel the intruders. Lyria's advisors attempted to maintain order, but she found herself instinctively moving toward Jason whenever danger approached. Each time their hands brushed, each time he protected her from harm, the indicator flared, and a strange heat of recognition filled her chest. She realized with growing certainty that the connection was real, undeniable, and far stronger than she had ever imagined. After what felt like hours, the enemy forces were finally driven back. The flagship's shields were damaged, and several sections required immediate repairs, but the crisis had passed. Lyria stood beside Jason, still trembling slightly from the adrenaline and the intensity of their bond. Her chest heaved as she struggled to regain composure. She had witnessed bravery, skill, and courage that went beyond anything she had known in her sheltered life. And she could no longer deny the pull the indicator had revealed. Jason turned to her, his expression calm but serious. "Are you all right, Princess?" he asked again, unaware of the indicator's significance but noticing her tension. "Yes," she said, forcing a composed tone, though her hands shook slightly. "Thank you for your courage. You saved many lives today." Her voice softened, betraying a hint of the emotions she could not hide entirely. Jason nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "It was my duty, Princess. I protect those around me. That is what I do." He did not speak of the strange warmth he felt whenever she was near, the curiosity that drew him closer despite the risks. He had a duty, and yet he could not ignore the inexplicable connection that lingered between them. The days following the attack were tense. Repairs had to be completed quickly, security had to be reinforced, and the delegation's schedule could not be disrupted. Lyria found herself observing Jason more closely than ever. She noted the way he interacted with her people, the way he respected customs while maintaining his own integrity. Every gesture, every word, seemed to deepen the bond that the soulmate indicator had revealed. During a private moment in the gardens, Lyria finally allowed herself to speak aloud, if only to the flowers that surrounded her. "Why him?" she whispered. "Why a human? Why now?" Her voice carried a mixture of fear, wonder, and longing. She could not answer the questions herself. She only knew the pull was real and that ignoring it was impossible. Jason, unaware she had spoken, approached the gardens to inspect structural damage from the recent attack. He paused when he saw her, sensing a tension he could not name. "Princess," he said softly, "are you all right?" She looked up, her chest tightening at the sight of him. The sunlight glinted off his uniform, highlighting the strength and calm that had drawn her attention since the first day. She hesitated, then said yes. "I am recovering." She spoke the truth in part, though it was not the whole truth. She was recovering physically, but her mind was captivated by a bond she could not yet explain. They walked together, maintaining polite conversation, while the garden's calm offered a stark contrast to the chaos of the recent attack. Lyria found herself stealing glances at him, noting small details, the way he carried himself, the subtle kindness in his eyes, the way his hands moved confidently without arrogance. Each glance reminded her of the indicator, of the impossible truth that had been revealed in a single touch. Later, Lyria summoned Dr. Velen again to discuss the indicator. "It cannot be a coincidence," she said firmly. "It happened twice now, under very different circumstances. The bond is real." Dr. Velen adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. "Indeed, Princess. The device is calibrated with extreme precision. It cannot be fooled. If it has activated for a human, then the bond is scientifically undeniable." Lyria exhaled slowly. The weight of the revelation pressed on her chest. She had spent her life following rules, protocols, and traditions. Now everything was challenged by a single impossible truth. She had a soulmate, one she could not predict, one she could barely understand, and one who belonged to a species her empire had rarely trusted. That evening, during a strategy meeting with her advisors, Lyria found herself distracted once more. Jason was present, observing protocols and offering insights when asked. Every time their eyes met, the indicator pulsed faintly in her mind, a reminder she could not ignore. She realized that the bond was no longer something private hit affected her thoughts, her reactions, and her ability to focus. She needed answers, but she also needed time. After the meeting, Lyria approached Jason privately in a quiet corridor. The moment was brief, yet charged. Their hands brushed again lightly, and the indicator pulsed softly, a gentle reminder of the connection they shared. Lyria's chest tightened, her mind racing with questions she could not yet voice. Jason looked at her, sensing her tension but unsure why she seemed both drawn to him and hesitant. "You were remarkable today," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Without your actions, many lives could have been lost." Jason's expression remained calm, though a faint warmth touched his eyes. "It was my duty, Princess. I only acted to protect those around me. That is all I know to do," Lyria nodded, feeling the truth of his words and the depth of his character. She realized that the bond the indicator revealed was not just a scientific anomaly, it was mirrored in his actions, his integrity, and his presence. She had been trained to rely on reason, yet now she felt compelled to trust something beyond reason, beyond protocol and beyond expectation. As night fell over the city, Lyria returned to her chambers, exhausted but restless. She sat by the window, staring at the lights below, reflecting on the events of the day. The bond with Jason was undeniable, confirmed not just by the soulmate indicator, but by the courage, honor, and kindness he had displayed. Her world was changing. She knew that the days ahead would challenge her in ways she could not yet imagine. Yet one thing was certain: she could not ignore the connection. It pulsed in her chest, whispered in her mind, and guided her thoughts in ways that defied logic and tradition. The human captain had touched her hand, had saved lives, and had activated something profound. Lyria realized that the aftermath of the attack weighed heavily on the flagship. Repairs were underway, but tension lingered in the air. Princess Lyria moved among her advisors and staff with practiced grace. Yet she could feel her mind constantly drawn to Jason. Every glance, every gesture, every word from him resonated in ways she could not fully understand. The soulmate indicator pulsed faintly whenever they were near, a quiet but persistent reminder of the bond she could not deny. Jason, too, felt the weight of the days that had passed. The danger had revealed strengths and qualities in him he had never been forced to show so clearly. He was proud of his actions, yet he also understood the implications of what had occurred. A human activating the princess's soulmate indicator was unprecedented. He did not fully comprehend it, but he knew that this connection, whether he wanted it or not, could not be ignored. YRIA spent much of her day reviewing reports from the recent attack. She scrutinized the enemy's strategy, the timing of their assault, and the damage caused. Yet her attention often wandered, her eyes unconsciously seeking Jason's presence among the guards and delegation members. She watched him quietly, noting how he moved with confidence and purpose, how he treated the alien guards with respect, and how his presence inspired calm even amid the chaos of the flagship's repairs. Later, Lyria called Jason to a private chamber to discuss security updates. The room was spacious, lined with soft lighting and advanced holographic displays. She gestured toward a display showing vulnerable areas of the docking bay. "Captain Cole," she began, her voice steady though her chest tightened, "I need your assessment. How can we prevent another attack?" Jason approached the display, his eyes scanning the schematics with precise focus. "The outer perimeter is secure, but the enemy will likely attempt a diversion," he said, pointing at a section of the hologram. "If we reinforce these areas and maintain mobile patrols, the likelihood of a breach is greatly reduced." Lyria nodded, impressed by his strategic insight. She could see the logic in his reasoning, the careful consideration behind every suggestion. And yet, the pull of the soulmate indicator was impossible to ignore. She found herself wishing she could touch him again, even briefly, to confirm the bond she could no longer deny. As they worked side by side, their hands occasionally brushed against each other while interacting with the holographic controls. Each touch sent a subtle pulse through the indicator, making Lyria's heart race. She struggled to maintain composure, but she could not ignore the sensation. It was as if the device was alive, a constant reminder of the connection that had changed everything. The day passed with careful planning, yet the tension remained. Lyria's advisors noticed her distraction but attributed it to the stress of the recent attack. They did not understand the true cause, the human who had touched her hand, the one who had unknowingly activated a bond meant to last a lifetime. Later that evening, Lyria wandered the gardens alone, seeking a moment of quiet reflection. The flowers glowed softly under the artificial lights, and the gentle hum of the energy fields created a peaceful atmosphere. She found a bench near a fountain and sat, letting her mind drift. The image of Jason's calm eyes and steady hands filled her thoughts. She could not deny the admiration and respect she felt for him, nor the strange warmth that surged through her chest whenever he was near. Jason approached quietly, having requested a brief moment to speak with the princess. "Princess Lyria," he said, his voice gentle, "may I join you?" She looked up, startled, but relieved to see him. "Yes, of course, Captain," she replied. Gesturing to the empty space beside her, he sat, maintaining a respectful distance. Yet she could feel the tension in the air between them. Neither spoke for a moment, the silence filled with unspoken thoughts and the quiet pulse of the soulmate indicator. Lyria struggled to find words, unsure how to express the emotions that had grown stronger with each passing day. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Captain, I must ask you something." Though I am unsure how to phrase it, Jason turned his gaze toward her, attentive and patient. "Ask, Princess. I will answer as best I can." She hesitated, then said, "Do you feel anything unusual when you are near me? Any sense of connection or understanding?" Her words were careful, cautious, as if revealing too much might break the fragile balance of their growing bond. Jason considered her question. His brow furrowed slightly. "I have noticed a sense of familiarity," he admitted. "A feeling that is hard to explain. It is not like anything I have felt before, but I assumed it was because of the proximity and shared experiences during the delegation's visit." Lyria's heart raced. She wanted to tell him the truth, to reveal the soulmate indicator and the impossible bond it confirmed, yet she feared the consequences. "It is more than familiarity," she said quietly. "There is a device in my world that signals a soulmate. When I touched your hand, it lit up. It is meant to indicate a bond that is meant to last a lifetime." Jason's eyes widened, the weight of her words sinking in. He did not fully understand the device, nor did he grasp the full implications, yet he could see the seriousness in her expression. "A soulmate?" he repeated softly. "You mean you believe I am connected to you in some way?" "Yes," Lyria said, her voice trembling slightly. "I did not believe it could happen with a human. Yet the indicator confirms it, and I cannot deny the connection it has revealed." Jason remained silent for a moment, absorbing the revelation. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the reality of the situation with everything he had known about humans and aliens. "This is extraordinary," he said finally. "I do not fully understand it, but I feel a bond with you as well, Princess. I cannot explain it, yet it is undeniable." The air between them shifted, charged with the acknowledgement of their connection. Lyria felt a mixture of relief and fear. Relief that Jason reciprocated the bond, and fear of the consequences that their union could bring. Her advisors, the council, and the expectations of her empire loomed over her thoughts. Yet in that quiet moment, those concerns seemed distant. All that mattered was the undeniable truth between them, as days turned into weeks. Lyria and Jason found themselves working closely together. Repairs to the flagship progressed, security protocols were strengthened, and plans for the next diplomatic mission were laid. Through it all, their bond deepened. Each touch, each glance, each shared word reinforced the connection the indicator had revealed. Yet the world around them remained fraught with tension. News of the attempted attack had spread quickly, and rival factions were already scheming. Whispers of scandal began to circulate among the council members. Some questioned the princess's judgment, unaware of the extraordinary circumstances that had forged her bond with a human. Lyria knew that any public revelation would be met with resistance, perhaps even hostility. Despite these challenges, she found herself drawn to Jason in ways she could no longer ignore. She observed his courage, his integrity, and his kindness. She watched how he treated her people with respect, how he adapted to their customs without losing his own identity. And each time their hands brushed, each time their eyes met, the soulmate indicator pulsed softly, a quiet affirmation of the connection they shared. One evening, as the flagship hovered above the city, Lyria and Jason stood on the observation deck together. The lights of the city shimmered below, reflecting in their eyes. Lyria took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her responsibilities and the pull of the bond that had changed her life. "Captain," she said softly, "I do not know what the future holds. My people may not understand, and there will be challenges we cannot foresee, but I cannot deny what the indicator has shown, nor the connection I feel with you." Jason turned to her, his expression calm yet resolute. "Princess, I feel the same. Whatever challenges come, we will face them together. This bond, it is not something we can ignore. It is real, and it matters." For the first time, Lyria allowed herself to feel a sense of hope. The world was uncertain, the political landscape dangerous, and their connection unprecedented. Yet she realized that some truths were undeniable, and some bonds could not be broken. The next days brought further challenges, including diplomatic negotiations and continued rebuilding after the attack. Lyria and Jason worked side by side, their growing trust and understanding evident to those who observed them closely. Each small success, each act of courage, reinforced the strength of their bond, and through it all, the soulmate indicator remained a quiet but constant presence, a reminder that their connection was real, profound, and extraordinary. Lyria had faced danger, uncertainty, and fear. Yet she had also discovered something beyond protocol, beyond expectation, beyond reason. She had found a bond that defied the rules of her world, a bond that had chosen a human. And she knew that, no matter the challenges ahead, she could not turn away from it. The alien flagship floated silently above the crystalline city, its polished surface reflecting the lavender sky. Princess Lyria stood on the observation deck, her hands resting lightly on the railing as she gazed at the distant spires below. The city's lights shimmered like liquid stars, and she felt a mix of pride and anxiety. Today was the day a human delegation would arrive for the first official contact. Her advisors had prepared everything meticulously, but Lyria could not shake the unease that clutched her chest. Humans were unpredictable, fragile, and yet they were here, walking into her world. She turned slightly, noticing her reflection in the polished metal wall behind her. Her eyes were sharp, yet something in them betrayed her worry. Lyria had spent her entire life being told what she must do, how she must behave, and whom she should trust. Her duties were endless, her life tightly controlled, and yet a tiny spark of curiosity had always burned inside her, a desire to see the galaxy for what it was. It's not just what her people said it was. The soft chime of the communication panel drew her attention. "Princess," a calm voice said, "the delegation has entered the outer docking perimeter. All protocols have been followed. They are proceeding to the main entrance." It was Admiral Kiro, her most trusted advisor, though he rarely showed emotion. His words were precise, almost mechanical, but Lyria sensed his hidden pride. He had helped organize this meeting, and he knew the stakes. "Thank you," Admiral Lyria replied, keeping her tone steady. "Prepare the ceremonial hall. I will receive them personally." She paused, glancing out the window once more. "And ensure security is discreet. I do not want them intimidated, but we must protect our customs." As the delegation's shuttle docked, Lyria watched from the observation deck. The humans disembarked with a mixture of caution and confidence. They were taller than most of her people, their movements fluid but deliberate. One of them stepped forward, and Lyria's gaze locked on him immediately. He carried himself with quiet authority, but there was no arrogance in his stance. His dark eyes scanned the surroundings carefully, taking in details others might overlook. Lyria felt an unexpected pull, a strange flutter she could not explain. She quickly looked away, scolding herself for letting curiosity interfere with her duty. "Princess," Admiral Kiro said softly. Sensing her distraction, "This is Captain Jason Cole. He is assigned to protect the delegation and ensure safe contact. He is highly skilled and comes with exceptional recommendations." Lyria nodded, offering a small, polite smile. "I will remember his role, Admiral." She turned back to the observation window, trying to steady her racing heart. Humans were supposed to be simple creatures, easy to assess. Yet something about this one unsettled her. The shuttle doors opened fully, and the humans began to walk toward the ceremonial hall. Lyria descended the staircase, her gown flowing gracefully behind her. She felt every eye upon her, yet her focus was drawn solely to the human captain. Each step brought a mix of nervous anticipation and wonder. She had read about humans, studied their history and culture, even their physiology, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of standing near one. The ceremonial hall was grand, a cathedral of light and sound. Crystals embedded in the walls cast prismatic reflections across the polished floor. The Council of Elders and her closest advisors lined the sides, observing silently as the humans approached. Lyria took her place at the center, her posture perfect, her expression regal. She was a princess, heir to an empire, and her people expected nothing less than perfection. Captain Jason Cole stepped forward, his movements controlled and deliberate. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned to mimic after observing alien customs. Lyria's eyes briefly met his, and she felt a strange warmth that spread through her chest. The moment passed quickly, but its impact lingered. She shook her head subtly, trying to dismiss the sensation. It was wrong. It was impossible. A human could not trigger such a response in a princess. In her carefully monitored life. The ceremony began with formal greetings, each side offering traditional phrases and gestures. When it came time for the customary handshake, Lyria extended her hand toward Jason. Her advisors whispered reminders about protocol, but she barely heard them. Her fingers brushed his palm lightly, and in that instant, everything changed. The soulmate indicator on her wrist, a device that had never activated in her entire life, lit up in brilliant, pulsating blue. The light reflected in her eyes, widening them in shock. She froze, unable to move as the signal continued to glow, bright and undeniable. Her mind raced. It was impossible. No human had ever activated the indicator. It was meant to appear only when a true soulmate was within physical contact. And yet here it was, glowing as if to confirm the bond she could not yet comprehend. Jason's eyes met hers. Noticing the sudden pause in her movement, "Are you all right, princess?" he asked calmly, though a hint of curiosity laced his tone. He did not understand the significance of the light, but he sensed her unease. His voice was steady, reassuring, and somehow it made her heart beat faster. Lyria struggled to find words, but none came. The indicator's glow was a silent proclamation she was not prepared to acknowledge. "Yes," she stammered, withdrawing her hand carefully. Her pulse raced as she glanced down at the indicator. The light dimmed slightly but did not disappear. Panic and awe mixed within her, creating a storm of emotions she had never felt before. She could not explain it. She could not control it. And she could not ignore it. The rest of the ceremony continued, but Lyria's mind was elsewhere. She barely heard the formal speeches, the presentations of gifts, or the polite exchanges between her council and the human delegation. Every glance she stole at Jason reminded her of the indicator of the impossible bond it had revealed. She felt a strange tension between duty and desire, between expectation and an unexplainable truth. After the ceremony concluded, Lyria retreated to her private quarters under the pretext of reviewing ceremonial reports. The moment the door closed behind her, she allowed herself to breathe. She removed the indicator from her wrist, staring at it as if it could explain itself. Scientists and scholars had spent years studying the device. It had never glowed for her, never until now. She paced the room, her gown brushing the floor softly. Questions flooded her mind. Why a human? Why him? Could this be a mistake in the device, a malfunction, Or was it truly a signal of something extraordinary? Lyria's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. "Princess." Admiral Kiro's voice sounded through the frame. "May I enter?" "Yes," she said softly, her voice steadier than she felt. "Please." The Admiral entered, his expression calm but observant. "You performed well today." The delegation was impressed. "But you seem distracted. Is everything in order?" Lyria hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "Everything is fine," she said carefully. "I am simply adjusting to new circumstances." Kiro nodded, sensing her evasiveness, but choosing not to press further. "Very well, Princess. Remember, your people are watching. Your composure is a message as strong as any words. Trust your instincts, but never let them override your duty." Alone again, Lyria sank into a chair near the window. The city below glimmered, beautiful and untouched by her turmoil. She reached for the indicator once more as if it could provide answers. Instead, it simply rested in her hand, inert, yet she knew what she had felt. The signal was real. The connection was undeniable. And the truth was terrifying. She replayed every moment with Jason in her mind. The way he had moved, the calm confidence he exuded, the kindness in his eyes, all qualities she had never expected to admire in a human, yet now they seemed impossible to ignore. Her life had been carefully controlled, her experiences limited to those deemed safe and appropriate by her advisors. Yet here was a human, and he had unknowingly shattered her careful boundaries with a single touch. The hours passed quickly, though they felt like a lifetime. Lyria's thoughts swirled with uncertainty. How could she acknowledge this bond without risking scandal? How could she reconcile the impossible connection with her duties and expectations? And most importantly, how could she face him again without betraying the secret she was not ready to share? As the night deepened, Lyria made a decision. She would observe. She would learn more about this human, about the bond that had activated in a single, impossible moment. She would maintain her duties, hide her uncertainty, and perhaps, in time, find a way to understand what had been awakened between them. But one thing was certain. She would never forget the warmth of that touch, the spark of recognition, and the light of the soulmate indicator. It had marked the beginning of something extraordinary, something beyond duty, beyond protocol, and beyond the understanding of her entire world. And as Princess Lyria looked out at the vast city below, she realized that her carefully structured life had just been turned upside down. In the quiet of her chambers, she allowed herself a single thought, whispered under her breath. Perhaps fate had chosen a human for her, and nothing would ever be the same again.